shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
Taking a look at temperatures heading out the door, upper 20s in the north, some mid 30s around the Triangle area. We'll talk about what the wind chill will feel like along with that.
Attempting to join ISIS, the charges a Durham man is facing after FBI agents arrested him at RDU.
And warnings of a quademic, the update state officials will give today on COVID and flu cases in North Carolina. Mix in RSV with that, and that's the situation we're in now. Can't wait for that update. I'm Jeff Hogan. Good to have you here on a Wednesday.
And I'm Renee Chu. Great to have you with us. 4:30, all you early risers. Don't have the sun yet, just up yet, but it's cold out there. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. The cold is getting old, Elizabeth.
It is, but here we are in the middle of January. So technically, meteorological winter is half over. Hopefully that helps because we start spring on March 1st, meteorologically. All right, it is clear this morning at North Hills. So remember that pretty moon that we saw yesterday coming up in another hour or so? We should be able to catch that moon on the camera. It'll be real pretty out there. 37 is our temperature. Our wind is 5 miles per hour. It's 37 in Fayetteville, 33 Goldsboro, 35 in Rocky Mount. We do have some colder air up to the north. It's just kind of lollygagging around up there. Hasn't really pushed in yet. But the wind chill makes it feel a little colder. 27 in Southern Pines, 19 in Roxborough and South Hill. Feels like 33 in Goldsboro, but it is 33 in Goldsboro. Our temperatures are going to hold near freezing this morning and then may just hold into the upper 30s through the afternoon as that colder air arrives. We're going to talk about some warmer, wetter conditions for the weekend coming up.
Some counties in our area still have icy spots today on some of those rural roads, so that means some delays again for some. And Warren County schools, they're one of them on a 2-hour delay. Vance County schools are delayed 1 hour.
I'm Nick Perlin in the WRAL Breaking News Tracker here in Durham, where the Durham Fire Department is responding to a fire at this home behind me. I'm going to step out of the way and show you what I'm seeing. And you can see there's about 5 or 6 Durham fire trucks here and some firefighters near the front porch of the home working to put out the remaining smoke. And you can see the windows and the doors of this brick house have been blown out because of the smoke and the fire. We know that this was dispatched at around 3:40 this morning. At this point in time, we're still working to find out what caused this fire, and we're also trying to find out if anybody is hurt or taken to the hospital. We're still trying to iron out all the details. This just happened less than an hour ago, so we're going to stay here all morning, and we're going to give you any new updates when we get new information. Live in Durham, Nick Perlin, WRAL News.
Authorities are looking for a man who led police on a chase and crashed into another driver's car. The chase started on US 64 in eastern Wake County. Deputies chased the driver through Wendell. The driver crashed into another car near Lizard Lick Road, but still did not stop. Deputies say the driver later slammed on the brakes in front of a deputy's car, causing that deputy to hit him from behind. The driver crashed on Wendell Falls Parkway and ran away. The Wendell Police Department is helping the sheriff's office with their search.
A Durham man is facing federal charges after prosecutors say he tried to join ISIS. Federal prosecutors say 29-year-old Alexander White started posting support for ISIS on Facebook in May last year. They say he openly discussed his desire to travel overseas and join the terrorist group. Investigators say White booked a flight to Morocco in December. FBI agents arrested him at RDU before he boarded that plane. He's charged with providing material support and resources to ISIS.
Today, we'll get an update on how many flu and COVID cases we have in North Carolina. This comes as health professionals warn of the danger of a quademic. WRAL's Laura Levine joins us live from UNC Rex Hospital in Raleigh. Laura, cases of flu, COVID, RSV, and norovirus are on the rise nationwide.
Renee, good morning. Hospitals like UNC Rex here behind me have been dealing with that expected post-holiday surge, which is why they had to limit and restrict visitors coming in and out of these healthcare facilities. And now we know with the rise of these cases, we're getting a better perspective today from the state on how it's impacting our communities. Taking a look at the latest data, as of last week, 4 more people have died from the flu. That brings North Carolina's flu deaths total to 17. No children have died from the flu this season so far. Emergency visits for all respiratory viruses are down slightly from last week. However, hospital admissions are up from last week. We spoke with Daniel Park. He's the medical director of the pediatric emergency department at UNC. He says patients who are immunocompromised, older or younger with developing immune systems are at greater risk. He says it's important to practice those habits that we picked up during the pandemic, like hand washing and wiping down highly touched surfaces.
If you are actively symptomatic, febrile, coughing, copious nasal and oral secretions, stay home.
He also says that getting vaccinated is the best precaution with these viruses that we are seeing picking up amongst our communities. Now, here in North Carolina, get this, flu season doesn't peak until mid to late February, so we still have a little while to go. Laura Levine, WRAL News, we're live in Raleigh.
Firefighters are preparing for more powerful winds today in Los Angeles as they continue to fight those wildfires there. More than 6 million people in Southern California are under a critical fire threat today. That's according to the National Weather Service. Fires have killed 25 people, 9 in the Palisades fire, 16 in the Eaton fire. People in affected areas are being asked to wear respiratory masks to help protect against ash from those fires. The Eaton and Palisades fires are now the most destructive and second most destructive wildfires, respectively, in Southern California history, according to CAL FIRE.
In response to rumors online, FEMA says no resources are being taken from Western North Carolina to respond to the wildfires out in California. A FEMA spokesperson tells WRAL their commitment to the response and recovery of North Carolina continues. To date, FEMA has approved $303 million to nearly 145,000 households and individuals, and $315 million in public assistance funding to support community recovery. But we know FEMA is at the center of many rumors online about what they're doing in Western North Carolina or what they're not doing.
And we have seen accusations online of people getting temporary shelter assistance or being kicked out of their hotels, even though FEMA extended hotel stays until January 25th. WRAL asked FEMA if there's any truth to this, and here's the response we got. If any survivors still need housing assistance or feel their TSA eligibility ended in error, they should immediately call the FEMA helpline. They say these hotel stays will only end for families who are no longer eligible for a narrow set of reasons, including if an inspection indicates their home is now livable. FEMA says they'll continue to be on the ground in North Carolina as long as the Helene recovery takes. Tonight, President Joe Biden plans to give his farewell address to the nation. He'll speak from the Oval Office at 8 o'clock. He's expected to reflect on his time in various political offices and give a message to Americans about the country's future. You can watch his address live on WRAL.
Covering Wake County, emergency management is urging people not to turn alerts off on their phones. It comes after an alert that was only supposed to go to the town of Zebulon late Monday night went to everyone in the entire county. The alert went out around 11:30 Monday night to let people in Zebulon know the search for a possibly armed and dangerous man was over. But the geotag was not properly set, so it startled many people across Wake County.
We recognize that, mistakes like this can cause some alert fatigue. We recognize that we have disturbed individuals, in their homes and their places of work, people traveling through the area. And we want to make sure that those, situations are taken seriously.
Wake County says it's important that you keep alerts active on your phone because they are designed to be urgent and get your immediate attention.
An emotional protest as a mother demands accountability.
What is they investigating? Tell me. Anybody see that tape? No, tell me.
The changes the family wants to see after a man died when he was beaten by corrections officers in New York.
The high cost of generic drugs. The new report that puts the blame on pharmacy benefit managers for driving up the price we pay.
And it's a live look in Lewisburg. Good morning to you. Wind chill. Just a bit uncomfortable this morning as you step outside. It's cold. Elizabeth Gardner will explain why this may just be an appetizer of an even bigger cold blast.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
4:43. Temperatures are mainly in the mid-30s from Wilson to Durham to Fayetteville. A little bit farther north, temperatures are closer to freezing this morning. It's a bit breezier than it was yesterday. You can see the windmills moving around there in Wilson this morning, the whirligigs. Let's take a look at what's heading out the door. Looking at temperatures right around 30 or so. It'll feel a little bit colder than that with the wind chill. But temperatures should hold close to freezing this morning as you're heading out the door. Likely to be a cool afternoon. We do have a flow coming out of the north today, and that's going to continue to drop our temperatures. So looking at high temperatures only around 40 degrees for later this afternoon, but we will see plenty of sunshine. We will start to see temperatures climbing a little bit, especially as we get into the weekend, but rain comes along with it. I'll show you the timeline.
Supporters for a man who died after being beaten by prison guards say they want justice for his death. They held a protest outside the prison in upstate New York, where Robert Brooks died last month. Brooks died after he was beaten by multiple corrections officers. 17 officers, nurses, and other staff members have been suspended and issued notices of discipline. Brooks' supporters are calling for more punishment.
They murdered him. We've seen it. The whole world has seen it. This correction department has never been exposed like this. But why aren't these killers arrested?
His supporters also want the prison closed. They want land where it stands to be renamed the Robert Brooks Memorial Park.
Cuba is expected to release more than 500 political prisoners. This is after the Biden administration reached a deal to take Cuba off the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Senior officials say political prisoners who are deemed unjustly detained will be freed before Biden leaves office Monday. The Cuban Foreign Ministry says the releases may begin today. President-elect Donald Trump added Cuba to the state sponsor of terrorism list just before he left office in January of 2021. Republicans are showing their support for President-elect Trump's choice for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He faced Senate Armed Services Committee for his confirmation hearing yesterday. While Republicans backed Hegseth's qualifications, Democrats questioned his lack of experience.
We have someone who has never managed an organization more than 100 people is going to come in and manage this incredibly important organization.
But as President Trump also told me, we've repeatedly placed people atop the Pentagon with supposedly the right credentials, whether they are retired generals, academics, or defense contractor executives. And where has it gotten us?
Hegseth will need to be confirmed by the full Senate after President-elect Trump takes office.
Less than a week before the presidential inauguration, Special Counsel Jack Smith's report on the election interference case against President-elect Trump has been released. Smith says there is enough evidence to convict him. The report details the pressure placed on state officials, former Vice President Mike Pence, and a plan to use fraudulent electors in an effort to overturn the 2020 election that Trump lost to President Biden. Smith refers to these actions as a series of criminal efforts to retain power. He says the ultimate roadblock was the former president's re-election in November, as he will now be protected from prosecution. President-elect Trump slammed the report on social media, calling the findings fake.
A new report from the Federal Trade Commission uncovers what appears to be a major driver of high prescription drug costs. The report found pharmacy benefit managers made more than $7 billion by marking up the prices of generic drugs. Those are the companies that serve as middlemen between drug makers, insurers, and pharmacies. Some of the medicines included drugs used to treat heart disease, cancer, and HIV.
The woman who was arrested after stowing away on a Delta flight in November will be back in court today. Svetlana Dali is facing an indictment from a Brooklyn grand jury. It's related to her original charge of sneaking onto a flight from New York to Paris. Last month, she had a court hearing in Buffalo after she was found on a Greyhound bus trying to get into Canada. She claimed to be a victim of human trafficking. State officials confirmed some Social Security numbers were exposed in the PowerSchool data breach. In a statement to WRAL, the Department of Public Instruction says they are still trying to identify those who were affected. They say fewer than 1,000 students had their Social Security numbers in the data. More teachers had their Social Security numbers exposed. All of the state's public schools that have used PowerSchool were affected to some degree. The state says PowerSchool plans to begin notifying people by the end of the month.
Transgender athletes are one step closer to being banned from playing in girls' sports. A bill that could block transgender athletes from competing in women's and girls' sports at federally funded schools is heading to the Senate. The House voted to pass it yesterday. Republicans have a very narrow majority in the Senate. That means at least 7 Democrats would have to vote with Republicans for the bill to receive the 60 votes it needs to ultimately receive a vote.
Time now is 4:48 on your Wednesday, and we are in a dry streak until we get some weekend rain. But until then, we're going to stay in the 30s. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. And today we're really not going to warm up very much.
Yeah, temperature is going to be around 40 for this afternoon, so that's really chilly. We do have colder air that's pushing its way in. It's taking its time getting here this morning, but it is clear. Right now it's 37, so we do have some spots that are above freezing right now. We'll see a slow drop in our temperature. We should drop it down to around 30 degrees as we get closer to 8 or 9 o'clock. So it is definitely going to feel chilly for it today. It's just the colder air is just, kind of lollygagging around out there, which I think is probably fine with everybody, right? Our skies are clear, so we have the top of the tower here in our backyard lit in blue. We take a look at temperatures, and it is 27 in Roxborough, 28 in South Hill. Our colder air, of course, is coming in from the north, but it's just, not quite here yet. 30 in Southern Pines, 32 in Goldsboro, 34 in Clinton. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's cold, but we're not seeing our temperatures widespread in the 20s just yet. But again, we'll continue to see some slow drop as we head through the morning. And it is a little breezier than it was yesterday, so we do have some wind chill that we're dealing with just a little bit this morning. We take a look at satellite and radar. Here's our high pressure system. That high pressure system rotating clockwise is helping to push in some of that cooler air. As that high slides eastward, it will also help to switch our wind direction by Friday. And we're back to a southerly flow that will warm things up for us. Our wind chill right now, 17 in Roxborough, 19 in South Hill. It feels like 27 in Southern Pines. Elsewhere, not a huge change. It does feel like 26 in Rocky Mount, as I said, but for the most part, it's feeling like low to mid 30s in the bulk of the area. But look at how much colder it is as you just get a little farther north, looking at -3 in Chicago, -7 in Minneapolis, and you can see those purple shaded areas all the way down into West Virginia and Virginia. So that cold air is on our doorstep, but it's just going to take a little bit more time to get here. Around town this afternoon, 40 in Raleigh, 39 in Durham, and 42 in Fayetteville with lots of sunshine. So it's definitely going to be coat weather for us. Bob Poteet sent us the snowy view of Lake Gaston from last weekend. Really pretty. Go to WRAL.com/report it and send us your photos. Let's take a look at our 7-day forecast. Of course, we do have rain in that forecast, and it does look like all rain. Our temperatures will end up being above freezing as that moves through. We'll talk about how much we could see coming up.
Rescuing a record number of sea turtles, why more have needed help along the North Carolina coast this winter.
And they say nothing lasts forever. The changes coming to the iconic Carrie Bradshaw Steps in New York City.
Like much of Hollywood, the music world is focused on the wildfires in Los Angeles. Even a former Beatle with a new album out. Here's David Daniel with the Hollywood Minute.
Ringo Starr is going country. The musician, whose latest album, Look Up, is a country disc, is recording Ringo and Friends at the Ryman in Nashville this week. It'll air on CBS this spring and benefit the American Red Cross and people affected by the California wildfires. The Friends joining in include Sheryl Crow, Jack White, Emmylou Harris, and Mickey Guyton. More music groups are contributing to LA fire relief. NAMM, the National Association of Music Merchants, has committed $50,000 to help members and other music makers affected by the fires. And the 9th annual Metal Hall of Fame Gala, January 22nd, is turning into a telethon to raise money for families displaced by the still raging blazes. The California fires have prompted Beyoncé to delay a big announcement. She posted the news on Instagram, where she originally teased the reveal Christmas Day. Beyoncé's foundation has donated $2.5 million to LA fire relief, and she's encouraging her fans to contribute what they can. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
A record number of cold-stunned sea turtles have been rescued on the North Carolina coast this winter. The Network for Endangered Sea Turtles says 800 have been brought in so far this year on Hatteras alone, and that's nearly 4 times the amount of turtles they see in a normal year. Marine wildlife experts say this is a result of geographical factors like shallow sounds and bays, in combination with other things like abrupt cold snaps. Hundreds of turtles have been treated and released.
And just like that, the iconic stoop outside of Carrie Bradshaw's apartment is off limits. The owner of the New York City apartment that served as the exterior of Carrie Bradshaw's home on Sex and the City and the sequel series, Just Like That, has long fought against tourists. She says they damaged the property. In a victory for the owner, the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission approved her application to get this iron gate installed in front of the steps. The brownstone, as you might imagine, has been a hotspot for fans of the HBO series since 1998.
Concerns about the spread of respiratory illnesses, how the number of COVID and flu cases are trending right now in North Carolina.
Another possible setback. The new challenge firefighters in Los Angeles are combating this morning as they try and get several massive wildfires under control.
And we could learn the fate of TikTok as early as today. The other apps users are downloading in case it gets banned.